Lars and Teal are a group of individuals that have come together around the state to really start talking about actionable change with COVID, with mobilizing its resources and bringing this kind of community of technology together at the forefront. So I will turn it over to you now, and if you need your slide advance, just let them know.
Great, thank you for that introduction, Beth. And hello, everyone. We are absolutely honored to be here and have a few minutes of your time today to talk about the group that we have formed in mid-March, just when the pandemic was setting in both globally as well as here at home in Wyoming. And we came together really under a single call to action, and that was, how can we leverage our diverse set of technological resources and backgrounds that we have here in Wyoming to help resolve the COVID-19 crisis that we were facing. Because there were a few things that we knew to be true. And first off, one thing we've talked about already today, we are a small population, and we consider that one of our assets. We really were able to mobilize and bring together a group of individuals incredibly quickly. And in addition to that, we were also able to join together with a sense of hope, for ourselves, as a community of volunteers, and we hope for those in the state that we were able to impact. We had really one goal in mind at that time. How could we leverage data, technology, information, and the derived products that come out of that to help support our state in a time of crisis? Because Wyoming, as we've also talked about already today, really is a place of innovation, and we wanted to capitalize on that and help support that mission. And we really have stayed true to that over the intervening 6 months and counting. It feels like a long time that we've really been in the midst of pandemic. During our peak response in the spring, when we were short on resources, we were able to mobilize 300 plus volunteers, all who are collectively working on a whole variety of initiatives, several of which I'd like to share some highlights with you today. A couple things I want to note, though, in the interim. First off, we are not a standalone entity. We all come from a variety of backgrounds, whether that be academia, the private sector, government, K-12 education, whatever that is. We really are a group of volunteers who have dedicated our evenings and our weekends for the past 6 months towards this effort. We do have funding from Microsoft as well as the Wyoming Community Foundation to support our efforts. And now I'll highlight just a few of the things that we have been able to accomplish in those 6 months. And first off, I'll talk about PPE production. So as you may recall, I'm talking in the early days, this was 5 months ago, but in the early days, we were definitely short on resources, and supporting our medical community became one of our first objectives. We were able to produce 6,700 pieces and parts of PPE for 43 different medical centers in Wyoming. And that included 2,000 custom laser cut and designed face shields to support the Wyoming Dental Association so that they could safely return to operations. We also produced 1,353 masks to go along with that. Now, I will also mention, 2,900 additional face shields, 2,000 visors. All of this was distributed across 32 different maker spaces here in Wyoming. And you will remember, this is not us as a group. This is really just bringing the collective effort that we had available and mobilizing those resources across the state to come together. So PPE production and that distribution was a big part of that early effort. We also supported several medical supply drives and were able to pull together 36,000 gloves, 600 N95 masks, 300 other masks, 125 safety goggles, 120 gowns, and redistribute that to the medical community. This was all back in April when a lot of these resources were in limited supply. In addition, so simultaneously to these different efforts that we had going on, we also were participating in an initiative called Folding at Home, which was computational resources to support the research of COVID-19. We reached, for those of you who know what these numbers mean, we reached 189 million points, and our best team ranking was 1,445 out of 250,000 teams. We, in addition to this, have provided not only geospatial data, but online mapping resources that are interactive. And this has been both in support of the governor's office, other entities in the state, as well as to support our own internal planning as a group. We also developed an initiative early on that we called Moonshot. And this was centered around collating and collecting as rapidly, dynamically, as a living document as we could, all of the authorized testing that was available both in the US, globally, what have you. So really being able to understand what tests are out there, what is available, and how can these resources potentially be leveraged here in Wyoming. We also partnered, we dove right into K-12 education. You all recall we were home, children were trying to learn from home, and Anderson Elementary School in Cheyenne asked us to partner with them to really spend a whole month highlighting, pulling together the different folks that we had in our group who could leverage or at least provide some online live education that highlighted the role of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, to fight the pandemic at that time. So we really were able to mobilize and pull together a variety of resources to also support K-12 education in the midst of everything else that we were working on. Also in support of K-12 education, we have put together an education wiki. This is an online resources, a living record that provides information and answers to questions for students, parents of students, teachers, and administrators alike. So another resource that we've been able to pull together. In those first few months, all of the efforts that we were able to highlight that I've just talked about really showed our worth to the point where we were able to work with the Wyoming Department of Workforce Services to actually get 3 positions, temporary positions, that were funded by CARES Act money. Those 3 very talented individuals had to have lost jobs due to COVID-19. We were able to bring in those 3 people to really help propel our otherwise volunteer efforts forward over some of those early months. So really, I think for me, before I transition over, I just wanted to say, I think what we learned as we've mobilized this effort and continue to move forward, that there were several things that were really fundamental to our success. And those were communication, coordination, and collaboration. Really being able to leverage, again, the resources that we know collectively in this room, including, we hope to partner with many of you moving forward. We have so much potential, but without that level of coordination, being able to leverage that innovation and have it reach its potential, we think wouldn't be happening. We really have had an opportunity to work with governments, across a variety of private industry, et cetera, to mobilize and to leverage resources. And we're not done. We certainly intend to continue forward. And to help tell that side of the story, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Lars. Lars?
Thank you, Teal. So I want to start by just giving you a little bit of perspective, because we've heard a lot of numbers. For example, 32 makerspaces across Wyoming. Just to put that in perspective, and in particular a Wyoming perspective, that is far more than there are cities in Wyoming where the population is higher than the elevation. So this is really a great accomplishment, in our opinion, because we didn't even know that these were there. There we have this cutting edge technology, 3D printing, and it turns out that people are doing it all over the state. And it took this common cause, COVID-19, and producing these pieces of personal protection equipment to really bring that out. And that kind of got us thinking, if we can do this in the short amount of time of 6 months, which is really, we started doing this very early on. It didn't take us 6 months to get started. We were pretty much there, and we were doing this right from the beginning and then only gaining more speed. What else could we be doing? Well, it turns out that there's another big challenge apart from COVID-19 that's facing Wyoming. And I believe some of the people here have already thought about this. I'm of course talking about the economy and economic diversification, and really kind of establishing a tech sector more than is currently present in Wyoming. I'm preaching to the choir here because a lot of people have talked about this morning already, and we have seen all these amazing things that are happening with blockchain and with UW and with various other things. But I think one of the problems is that really not many people outside of this room know about this. Last time I traveled back into the United States, I was coming back in from abroad. I go through immigration, get the usual questions. Where do you live? Wyoming. What do you do? I'm a computer scientist. Oh, you've got computers in Wyoming? Well, yes, we do. We do actually have quite a lot of computers in Wyoming. But there's clearly an issue where outside of Wyoming, and to some extent outside of this room as well, we're not really perceived as an innovation state, even though that is clearly not the case, as we have, for example, shown as many other people earlier today have highlighted as well. So this is really a story we need to tell more, and all of us need to tell more. And when we go out and when we go outside of Wyoming, we need to tell people that, hey, Wyoming is where innovation happens. Look at blockchain, look at this, that, and the other. We're doing all of these kinds of things. And this is really why we're here. So we're not really here to brag about the number of face shields that we have produced and this, that, and the other that we've done. We only really want to give you an impression of what we have been able to pull together with a very limited amount of funding and mostly volunteer time in actually much less than 6 months. It's still going now after about 6 months. So this is really where we see COVID as a challenge on one hand, but on the other hand as an opportunity to really leverage the resources that we have in the state, come together for a common cause, and then really achieve something bigger. And that we need to do that in Wyoming because, as you all know, the economy is in trouble. We're looking at budget cuts across the board for everything. So something needs to be done. If we see COVID-19 as an opportunity there, maybe we can change some really fundamental things that, in my opinion, are necessary to be changed in order to really move forward with this. I speak to some extent from personal experience. I was born in East Germany, where the economy was in a much, much worse state than it is right now in Wyoming. And it took a really cataclysmic event, the reunification of Germany, 30 years ago, the day after tomorrow, to eventually build up the economy and get East Germany to where it is today. In a much better position. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't easy, it was difficult, it took a long time, it took a lot of effort, but it needs to get started at some point. And for Wyoming, this opportunity could be COVID-19. So let's leverage this and let's start talking about economic diversification of revenues and everything that's related to that. That's why we're here. We would love to talk to you about this. If you come and talk to us, we have these adorable little 3D printed face shields that you can get limited supply only. So that's your chance to get one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teal and Lars. I think that's a great example and testament to what can happen in Wyoming when people come together with a common vision.